So we're having a real hard time with this vlogging. Ozzie's not happy. Do we put it on or do we not? That's the question.
Serious. But I'm supposed to go through it.
Through what?
I really believe I'm supposed to go through it. Because, like I said, if it wasn't something I was exposed when I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, man, how can people be this crazy? And then it kind of prepared me for all of a sudden, bang, you want to do it. And I thought, okay, cool. And here I'm watching it and it doesn't matter. I have to suffer it because that's it. Elijah Tishbite was the first Elijah, right?
Right.
The second Elijah, Jesus confirmed, was John the Baptist.
Right.
And it was his message, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So in Malachi 3:6, when it says, I will turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to the fathers, which is the third Elijah message, applying to us now. So when it says, I'll turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to the fathers, lest I come and strike the earth with a curse before the coming of the great and terrible day of the Lord.
Right.
So the curse is that everyone that is going to reject the third Elijah message will end up with a curse. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, because the curse is the same curse that started in the garden with the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Wow.
I just got it this morning. I was praying and wrestling with this thing, asking God, what does fathers to children and children to fathers mean?
What? Okay, so say it again.
And then I had to go through my commentary and the New Testament commentary in Hebrew.
Yeah. So, what did you find out?
Well, you have to look at it, sweetheart, to see have I gone crazy or am I on the right track. You have to do it. I can't talk about it. You'll have to do this one for me. Check it out. Look at it I've marked it in red. But you look at it and see what you see before I say anything.
Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense. Because the message is the truth about God.
Yes.
And the curse is the lie about God.
Yes. Exactly.
Wow.
I know it is huge, man. But be very careful. You have to look at this. Because you look at it. I don't want to say it because then I'm preempting it. I want you to see it and see if we see it the same way. Because if the way I'm seeing it, oh my goodness.
Yeah, and the curse is death and the truth is life. And the world is just bathing in death right now.
The tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah, and you know what, this whole focus on death, pointing out how many people have died everywhere, all over the place.
All that is part of the good and evil.
That's
right.
You know what they used to do in ancient Egypt? Those priests, in their rites, in their spiritual religious rites, they used to pass a coffin around. That's what's happening.
No.
They're passing the coffin around.
Yeah, true.
And this death has been happening all along. People died moment by moment every day, hundreds and thousands of people are always dying, but we didn't hear about it. Now it's like become the focus. How many people have died in one day? It's like this death fest.
intelligent beings in the universe, and he took 1/3 of the angels, then that same principle applies on earth. In the garden, the tree of life was there, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was there. And we have that choice now to pick everything, whether we are going to look at it through the tree of life or through the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Even the Holy Scriptures from Genesis to Revelation. We got both. Both principles are running throughout the Scriptures. The tree of life principle and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil principle running throughout the Scriptures. And then Jesus comes 4,000 years later and completely confirms the tree of life principle. Clearly reveals it, confirms it, the simple principle that was given in the garden, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He comes to earth and he clearly settles that issue, that only go by the tree of life, which is him. Don't go by anything else. If we are looking at the Old Testament scriptures through the eyes of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, we will never know God the way he should be known. Never. But if we are looking at the Old Testament scriptures through the lens of the tree of life, which is the person of Jesus Christ, we will come to understand the Holy Scriptures the way it should be. This time of the year, to have this kind of a weather is a real blessing, because I think from what I understand, almost probably, I think 90 days in the year we get sun.
Yeah.
The rest of the time is cloudy and hazy and rainy, whatever else goes with it.
We got one day of beautiful sunshine.
Yeah. Well, kid, why you all on me? What about you?
Because you're more photogenic than I am.
Yeah. See, there you go. Be very careful.
Look at that beautiful beach. Sunshine is so important for health. Vitamin D. The only way the body produces vitamin D, which is really not a vitamin, according to a Brazilian expert on the subject, worldwide recognized Dr. Coelho is his name. And he said it's actually a hormone that's produced in the body through the exposure to sunshine. And that since the 80s, I believe, when people started saying that exposure to sunshine is bad for you, that's when he started to see all these diseases coming up, autoimmune diseases and stuff, because of lack of vitamin D. So we get very few days of sunshine here, and today is a beautiful day filled with sunshine, so we're getting some sun. Apparently you can get vitamin D through cod liver oil, which if you can stomach it, yeah, not a good alternative.
The whole devilish system revolves around the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's the tree of death. God didn't call it the tree of death. He called it the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The tree of life was very clearly labeled the tree of life. The other wasn't labeled the tree of death. God did say, the day you eat of it, you will surely die. So the good and the evil, both in the tree, brings death. And that's the tragedy, that people have completely misunderstood the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. They think the good in that tree is God's goodness. No, that still brings death because it's not God's goodness. That's the devil's form of goodness. Reward. You can do good, he rewards you, and keep the law properly, and you get rewarded for it, and it's nothing to do with God's grace. And the tree of life is what is represented by the image of God, His love. So the tree of life is God's love. Tree of the knowledge of good and evil revolves and depicts Satan's system. One is God's law of governance, the other one is Satan's law of governance.
So what's an example of Satan's system in the world?
The world, pretty well the whole world is permeated with the system of good and evil.
Well, explain
Every
how
institution, every religious belief, everything is in a way saturated with the principle, the law represented by the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So you do good, you get rewarded. You do evil, you get punished. And arbitrarily, instead of God's system is, He lays the path of blessings and curses. And if you choose to walk the path of blessings, inherent in that path is the blessings. If you choose to walk the path of curses, inherent in that path is the curses. That's God's system. So it's a huge difference between the two. And if that understanding is settled right there from the beginning, then it would have a huge impact on the totality of how we understand the scriptures and our understanding of God's character. All of that.
So this whole thing about karma, like, people say, if you do something bad, karma will get you. That's Satan's system.
Well, that's the reward and punishment system, yes. Exactly. It's happening all the time. Because we're always treading that path of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We're walking, thinking.
So how do you get out of it?
The only way you get out of it is through the person of Jesus Christ. There's no other way to get out of it. He gives you the true revelation of God, and you pray to get victory over living by the principle represented by the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and that's it.
So the Elijah message is the message of God's character of unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
And Elijah will turn the fathers, who are those who have that message.
Elijah had that message for the children of Israel as the spiritual father. He was trying to get them to turn back from Baal to God. They were worshipping God with the good and evil, Baal.
So the children of Israel were worshipping Baal, which is the God of reward and punishment.
The God of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
And so Elijah was telling them that this is not God.
Elijah, as the spiritual father, was telling them to let go of Baal worship and worship the true God. How long will you waver between the two opinions? How long will you waver between worshipping Baal and worshipping God?
So, and He will turn the hearts of the fathers, which are those that have the message of love,
of God's love,
and who have been transformed back into God's image.
Yes, so that John 3:16 comes in there. For God so loved the world.
And
God the Father is the spiritual father of the world, and He so loved the world.
I just want to be clear. So the fathers are the Elijah messengers.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes.
Because they're revealing a God of love.
Yes. Whoever they are, doesn't mean to say they're old people or whatever. Whoever is holding any kind of a responsible position, whether the pastors, teachers, leadership, whatever it may be.
Man, woman, child, anybody.
Anybody.
Anybody who has that message.
Yeah.
Has a message of, as a father, not in, because the word father in Hebrew means someone in authority, right?
Yeah.
Or an advisor.
Yeah.
And the authority is coming from Jesus.
Yeah.
And that love is what unites us.
Yeah.
The children and the fathers.
Yes.
And the children are who?
So the fathers have to have it first, because they're the ones. See, God loved us before we loved Him.
Right. We love Him because He first loved us.
Yes.
So a true father is going to have that same love for the human race.
Yeah. Not just any select group.
Yeah, the whole human race.
Uh-huh.
So anybody who's giving a message there that doesn't have that love of God is a false prophet.
Yes. That's why Paul said you can have everything. Faith, hope, and love. Faith, hope, and love. The greatest of this is love. So you can have all the faith that can move mountains. You can have all kinds of faith. But if God's love is not there, you got nothing.
That was a tough one, but we got through it.